When you think of Saudi Arabia, you probably think of a kingdom built on oil, a place of immense wealth. But underneath that shimmering surface, there's a much deeper truth. A land that's been defined for centuries by what it doesn't have. A land without rivers. That simple fact of geography has shaped the very terms of survival here. But now, something is changing. A project of almost impossible scale is underway. An attempt to rewrite that geography, for good.
So the question is as simple as it is huge. In a country where 98% of the land is scorching desert, where rain is more of a myth than a reality, how do you get water? Well, the answer can't be found in nature. It has to be engineered. It has to be built, literally from the sea itself.
And the answer starts with a number that's just hard to wrap your head around. 12,000 kilometers. That's the length of a massive subterranean water network, an artificial artery flowing right beneath the sand. This isn't a river born from mountains and rain. This is a river forged from human will. To really understand this monumental project, we have to go back. We have to grasp the sheer scale of the challenge it was built to solve, a challenge that's been etched into the sand of the Arabian Peninsula for thousands of years. You have to understand Saudi Arabia is what's called a hyper-arid nation. It's one of the very few countries on the entire planet with absolutely no permanent, naturally flowing rivers or lakes. For centuries, life here clung to scattered oases and the rare, precious gift of rain. It was a fragile existence, lived in a relentless climate. But then, in the 20th century, that delicate balance was just shattered. The population exploded, going from just over 4 million people to more than 33 million. Add to that the sudden demands of brand new cities and industries, and you've got an unbearable strain on a resource that was barely there to begin with. And the biggest consumer, by a long shot, was agriculture, gulping down over 80% of all the water. The kingdom was thirsty, and it was getting thirstier every single day. So, facing this growing crisis, the kingdom looked down deep beneath the desert to what seemed like a miracle. It was a solution that would, for a short time, make the desert bloom. But it came at a devastating cost. And this map, this is where you see the kingdom's secret. Deep underground, there were these huge reservoirs of what's called fossil water. It was water trapped in aquifers thousands of years ago, back when the climate was much wetter. But here's the key. This wasn't a renewable source. It was a finite treasure, a one-time inheritance from the past. With this ancient water, an incredible dream was born, to make the desert bloom, to actually grow wheat in the heart of the sand and become food independent. The government poured money into farming, and pretty soon you could see these massive green circles from space, all irrigated by that ancient water. For a brief moment, it actually worked. Saudi Arabia became a major wheat exporter. But that green dream was drinking its source dry at an alarming speed. The numbers here tell a pretty stark story. In key farming regions like Al-Kharj, the water table just plummeted by an incredible 104 meters. We're talking billions of cubic meters of water pumped out, draining aquifers that would take thousands of years to replenish, if they ever could. By 2016, it was over. The gamble had failed. The government had no choice but to completely abandon the wheat program. The fossil water, which once seemed like a bottomless gift, was almost gone. The lesson was brutal and it was clear. You can't build a sustainable future by mining the past. And so, out of the dust of that failed experiment, a new vision rose up, a vision even more audacious than the one before. If nature wasn't going to provide a river, well, Saudi Arabia would just have to manufacture one itself. The scale of this new plan it's just staggering. The goal is to produce 9.4 million cubic meters of fresh water every single day. That is enough water to fill nearly 4,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools daily. And of course, all that water has to go somewhere. The entire network of distribution pipes snaking under the kingdom's cities will stretch for 126,000 kilometers. To give you some perspective, that's enough pipe to wrap around the entire Earth 3 times over. And the main pipeline, the 12,000-kilometer artery that's at the very heart of this system, it's longer than the River Nile. Yeah, longer than the longest natural river on our planet. It is, for all intents and purposes, a new wonder of the modern world, engineered from steel and ingenuity. So how did they do it? This water is literally created from the sea using a process called desalination. Now, the old way, multi-stage flash, was really energy hungry. You basically just boil seawater over and over. But the future, that's reverse osmosis. It uses immense pressure to force seawater through membranes so fine that the salt and all the impurities just can't get through. It's way more efficient, and more, it's being powered by the one resource the desert has plenty of: sunshine.
But here's the catch. Creating fresh water on this kind of scale solves one massive problem, but it creates a whole new one. You see, for every liter of fresh water you make, you're left with about 1.5 liters of this toxic, super salty gunk. It's called brine.
For a long time, the solution was just to dump this brine back into the sea, which, as you can imagine, was terrible for marine life. As Dr. Mohammed Al-Saidi points out, the problem wasn't that we didn't have the technology to do something better, it was a lack of investment. But that's starting to change, as Saudi Arabia is figuring out how to turn this environmental problem into an economic opportunity.
And this is where we see a new philosophy taking shape. They call it brine mining. Instead of treating the brine as waste, they now use advanced tech to pull valuable minerals right out of it. We're talking magnesium, potassium, sodium chloride. What was once pollution is now a source of valuable industrial materials. It's a perfect example of a circular economy, where waste becomes wealth. So you see, this artificial river is so much more than just infrastructure. It's the foundation of a whole new hydrological reality, not just for Saudi Arabia, but maybe even a blueprint for an increasingly thirsty world. When you put it next to other water megaprojects, you really see how different the Saudi approach is. Libya's great man-made river, just like Saudi's old wheat farms, relies on pumping out that finite fossil water. China's project moves water from existing rivers, so it's totally dependent on the climate. The Saudi River is different. Its core idea is manufactured water from an almost infinite source, the ocean, made sustainable with solar power. This constant, reliable flow of water is the absolute lifeblood of the kingdom's Vision 2030 plan for the future. It's what makes food security possible again. It's the fuel for the Saudi Green Initiative with its crazy ambitious plan to plant 10 billion trees. And it's what underpins the entire effort to build an economy that's no longer just about oil. Really, the entire future is being built on this river. So, Saudi Arabia is forging a new reality. They're proving that even the most fundamental limits of geography can be challenged with technology and sheer will. But this incredible power, it leaves us with a profound question. As humanity gets better and better at building rivers where deserts lie, what's the true price of mastering nature? And are we prepared to pay it?